What are the upsides of doing something like this instead of starting to inject long ester testosterone? First, you don't have to inject. You just swallow a pill twice a day, AM, PM. Easiest fucking thing in the world. Second, you will feel the effects within a few days. You feel orals faster typically. And within just about a week or so, you'll feel kind of the full power of the orals. It doesn't mean they're going to give you all the benefits right away, but psychologically and in the gym, you'll feel like, oh, okay, it's happening.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about gear. Indeed, the good old Sazul we are reacting to. Don't use steroids, exclamation mark. But if you do, start with orals only by Renaissance Periodization. Don't be stupid in the thumbnail. So Mike is a very well-respected individual in the fitness industry for his insight on periodization, training modalities, anything and all things to do with like actual programming essentially. However, when it comes to anabolics, he has pretty reserved content or opinions. Like he doesn't talk about it very often, but expectedly he's asked for his opinion a lot because he is a respected information provider in this industry and deals with a lot of enhanced bodybuilders and whatnot, and being one himself. So sometimes he does touch on it, and this one was a pretty controversial one apparently. He literally, like the title itself, pretty fucking hectic. Don't use gear. If you do, literally do this exact thing in this video. So like not vague, not trying to give a general idea of anything, like straight up do exactly this. And I was tagged in this a shit ton of times. So let's react to it. I might jump around a little bit.
Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. The topic of today was something I mentioned in another earlier video about steroids, and this is the recommendation that your first cycle should be orals only for just a few weeks to test the waters. And here I will explain my idea of why that is the right idea in many cases. Dipping your toe in is, I think in this case, a very great expression for this specific instance of trying steroids, because dipping the toe in the pool, right, you don't know if the water is too cold, right? That's why you're not jumping in with your whole body, because a lot of cold blows and just dipping your toe is not that terrible. What if the water's too hot? What if the water is full of crocodile shark hybrids? That's nothing you want, because not only do they have the bite force of sharks and the swimming dexterity of sharks, but they also have the little croc limbs. Though I don't know if crocs ever use their limbs for anything combat related. In any case, the scales and the tail, it's awful, right? So before you go into water that you don't know anything about, you dip the toe. Now, before you fucking nerds say that, well, if you dip your toe, the croc pulls you in, yeah, fine, I get it. But if you jump in, motherfucker for sure pulling you in. So better to dip than to just get in there. I've seen the movies where like the teen girls are in the lake and they're like, oh my God, Brandon, come in, it's so awesome. And he's like, I don't know, you guys, it's like kind of dangerous. I'm like, come on, it's fun. Movie. You could be the writer. Right, everything slowly.
By the way, he's actually a funny guy. I'm not just skipping the jokes because I don't like them. It's like I'm just trying to minimize the time of the video.
It's a good idea to ease into steroids if you're going to do them at all. This exposes you to minimal risk, and it really tests your individual response to steroids, to drugs, so that you can back off, be like, fuck that, that's not for me, or push ahead if it really is for you without paying huge cost up front. Now, how not to ease in is to take the standard Reddit advice, no offense, Redditors, you're great for many other things, of like fucking start injecting 250 to 500 mgs a test for 16 weeks, or like fucking D-ball front load, stupid shit like that.
Take your 500 tests and shut the fuck up, bitch. Then 2 weeks off, start your 4-week PCT of Novadex Clomid, good to go, right?
And all per the forums, you got to have PCT on hand for sides. It's all about what you have on hand. That's how you do real internet cycles.
That's so true. It's always happening. Well, you have your ancillaries on hand, and that's literally the terminology and the lingo used. That's so funny.
There are problems with this approach of just starting injectable drugs. I counted at least 6 of these problems. First, you have to...
There's nothing wrong with having shit on hand, by the way, but it's so true that is how people word it in general. It's like if you encountered an estrogenic side and you were going to introduce an aromatase inhibitor, though, it's like, should you just, haphazardly be on it from the get-go? You probably were using a dose of an aromatizing drug that was probably excessive to begin with if you were like head first jumping into, you know, inhibiting aromatase off the bat anyway. So like, I think having shit on hand does make sense. It's just funny how that is how people do talk.
Inject stuff into your body. The needle is very long. It is very scary. You got to pull out of a vial. You got to put the shit in your body. There's blood. It hurts. It always blows. Trust me. It always blows. It just blows a little bit less over years. So the first several months is going to be fucking awful. Unless you're needle happy, it's terrible. It's nothing you want to have to do, especially when you're just exploring, right?
It's weird. It's like that's like the total opposite, I think, of most people's experience. It's like, it's scary the first few times. And then when you're on gear, honestly, for the first however many, you know, cycles and shit's like really exciting and new and blah, 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 you're like stoked to get your pin done. It's like, fuck yeah, let's go. But then years down the line, you know, when you're on TRT, how many guys here can attest to the fact that after years of using this shit, you end up dreading it? You will like miss pins even on TRT because you hate it so much. Like, I think the guys who actually like pinning the most are like the newbies, to be honest. Like, it's scary, but once they get over the terrified hump, you know, they're pretty fucking thrilled to get their next shot in. But for most guys who are like, you know, veterans of the shit or whatever, or guys on TRT, it's just a nuisance of life, frankly. As far as like a long, scary needle, I think most guys are pretty, especially on a newbie cycle, like the volume you would be using from an oil-based, you know, injectable perspective is so low. And I think generally understood best practice of steady blood serum concentrations via more frequent administrations to replicate endogenous, you know, kind of like secretion patterns and whatnot would be something you could get away with an insulin pen. I think most people now that are using reasonable volumes are administering more frequently. You know, even every other day seems to be the best ROI from not having to pin every fucking day perspective, which sucks ass. And yeah, pinning more frequently is annoying. But to be honest, like, I would prefer an every other day insulin pin shot over a Monday, Thursday standard harpoon shot that, you know, most people are doing. And frankly, like when you're using low volumes, especially TRT, doing like a harpoon, like 1 to 1.5 inches, like totally unnecessary anyway. So yeah, depending on the volume of oil, of course, like you might need to go deeper. But I mean, in general, most guys that are just getting into this are using such a low dose, or guys on TRT, that they're not going to have to be, you know, subjecting themselves to big scary needles in the first place. Shallow intramuscular seems to work fine. I'll let him get into the rest here, but that was my general stance on the injections. But yeah, obviously injecting is like a, you know, terrifying thing for some people.
Kind of like the difference between like, hey, do you want a shot of alcohol at a party to see if you're like, you know, you're 22 or 21 and it's your first drink, or you want to take a shot or a mixed drink, or do you want to like inject alcohol into your blood? Like, what the fuck that. Like, give me a shot. Let's start out slow.
Yeah, it's definitely true though how most people will prefer an oral over an injectable. Understood, you know, it's a lot, the barrier to entry is a lot lower with orals. But again, it's like, you know, the guys who are pinning, it's like, is that almost like a good barrier to entry where only the guys who are serious are going to inject something to themselves because it's way scarier and way more like of a, you know, overwhelming process, like where you're literally in your head rationalizing, do I know enough about this stuff to even, you know, justify literally injecting something into my body? Whereas with a pill, you know, you're just like, fuck it. I like barely know what this shit does, but my buddy told me D-ball is fucking sick. And so you just pop it because it's such a low barrier to entry. Like what's the probability of the guy who's injecting something to be higher educated about test than, you know, the random D-ball only cycle gangster? I would assert that it's quite likely that the guy who's injecting probably has looked into it a bit more than the guy who just has to pop a pill. But obviously there's a debate on like both sides of the spectrum of that. Because, yeah, it's scary to fucking pin shit, obviously.
Second point, if you start this injection of testosterone, you won't feel much for multiple weeks. So you're like, I guess I'm using steroids, don't know what's happening. And so that sucks. For 4 to 6 weeks, only 4 to 6 weeks later will you feel like the full power of the drugs that are in your body. So you got to wait a while to even see if it's fucking worth your time. And if you don't like what's going on, like let's say you get health problems, crazy acne, psychoanxiety or something like that, which is pretty common, you'll have to put up with it for like at least 2 or 3 weeks, even if you stop cold turkey right then and there, because like testosterone ester is like an anti-sapinate, which is typically what you would start with in this not so great idea model. Then you just, they digest or break down really slowly in your bloodstream and in the compartment of the muscle in which you inject them and the bolus. And then it's just for 2 or 3 weeks, you still feel like shit. So like, when you're really anxious and you're like, dude, I can't be on these drugs anymore, get me out of here. Okay, you skip your next injection. You're like, I still feel fucking awful. And be like, oh yeah, but you got another fucking, 2 or 3 weeks of feeling a little bit less like shit every few days. Fuck that, right?
Yeah, like one thing I would say though is you don't necessarily like feel muscle growth. Like in general, when you are feeling stuff, oftentimes it is side effect accrual that has creeped up insidiously or, very quickly and fucking blatantly because you chose a poorly designed cycle or went way too aggressive off the bat. Now again, obviously when it comes to testosterone administration, pushing your shit super physiological, it'll feel like you hit puberty again for the first bit as your total and free test levels, skyrocket depending on your dose. But on an oral only cycle, maybe you don't feel that same oomph because you are actually suppressing yourself and using a drug that is more tissue selective concurrently with your test dropping. So you have like this, perhaps a lessening of your libido. You don't get this aggression and, giant spike, and it's in and out of your system so quick that it is affecting you like right away. But it's like, is test like not working for fucking like 4 to 5 weeks like the bros would, say on the forums back in the day? No, like it's in your system and it's fucking working pretty goddamn quickly. You won't hit steady state until 5 half-lives have essentially completed, but that doesn't mean it's not in your system doing something like fucking immediately, essentially. You won't feel, the giant, spike in libido maybe in the first week necessarily if you're using an enanthate or a cypionate. But I mean, again, if you're going to argue that you want something in and out of your system quickly, you could just use a propionate or a shorter ester. Now again, obviously that's more, of a tall task to ask a beginner to be using, short ester just to get it in their system faster so they can clear it out faster if they have a problem, and to be administering that frequently. But it's like, at the end of the day, more barriers to entry. You need to be more educated about pharmacokinetics and how this shit works. And I would probably assert that that guy is more equipped to use anabolics than the guy who's randomly popping oral steroids, in grade 12 or something.
Next up, if you catch shit early and you stop, because you probably won't catch anything for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, you're still getting your natural test production shut down. And that's going to feel like shit. And it can take weeks to renorm back to normal, possibly longer in some cases. And that's when you actually need stupid PCT and all that other bullshit in real life. And it's just a whole big mess you might not have to get yourself into. So
this is all about understanding pharmacokinetics of the drugs beforehand. So the argument is, if you're on test, you're going to have to deal with feeling like shit after you come off because you're going to be suppressed for longer. But again, it's not like you couldn't choose a shorter ester. It's not like you couldn't plan your stuff properly. Like again, yeah, you can argue if you use an oral, it's gonna be in and out of your system faster, so then you can get, negative feedback eliminated faster, to which you can then have your gonadotropin output increase in a, shorter time frame. But again, this is not something that could not, like, you're talking about the same scenario. You're waiting for negative feedback to complete based on the clearance of the drug. So if you understand the clearance of testosterone, is this not something you could plan for accordingly as well? One might be more drawn out than the other, but again, it's not something that is putting you in a situation that is so suboptimal compared to the oral cycle, where the oral cycle you're dealing with weeks of operating with a suppressed environment relative to your testosterone. You're actually operating with the actual baseline hormonal infrastructure that actually facilitates physiologic functions, neuroprotection, etc. And then you still have to wait for the clearance of the hormone anyways for negative feedback to stop being present in order for your LH and FSH to kick back up. And it's the same sort of thing. Now, the drawn out part, yeah, you might have to plan a bit more intelligently if you're using a long ester and it is slowly clearing out of your system, and you have, that little, happy, that, little section of time where you're dealing with like borderline crash levels, but you're not yet cleared in order for your HPTA to be like fully kicking back LH and FSH into full gear. But again, like that's where you would plan accordingly. And it's not like you couldn't use a super short test ester if you really wanted to, and try and kind of, equate to the same outcomes as you would get from, or as close to there as you can get from an oral administration practice. So, there's definitely arguments to both sides, but for me, like this whole argument about you're gonna have to deal with being shut down for like way longer, like this is not something that you couldn't be expected and just planned accordingly with the actual ester in question.
My advice is to do something like the following. If you're insisting on doing this and it's legal in your country, et cetera, and you're not cheating at sports, you can start with an oral like Anavar, which is one of the safest drugs that they have. That doesn't mean it's safe, it's safest. At like 20 to 40 milligrams per day. By the way, this advice is exclusively for males. I'll get into the female stuff in a bit. For like 3 or 4 weeks. It's like 20 to 40 mgs of Anavar per day for 3 or 4 weeks. Females, the advice is much different. It's not just less Anavar. It's altogether different. Do not do the above. Google Joe Jeffrey Physique Collective. He specializes in this kind of thing. Give that a look, and it'll sort you well on your way. All right, so what are the upsides of doing something like this instead of starting to inject long-ester testosterone? First, you don't have to inject shit. You just swallow a pill twice a day, AM, PM. Easiest fucking thing in the world. Second, you will feel the effects within a few days. You feel orals faster typically, and within just about a week or so, you'll feel kind of the full power of the orals. It doesn't mean they're going to give you all the benefits right away, but psychologically and in the gym, you'll feel like, oh, okay, shit's happening, right? And you don't have to wait 3 to 4 weeks. It's just like a week, which if shit goes south, you can cut faster. To that end, if you don't like what's going on, and you stop taking the Anavar, it's just a few days later, you don't feel any of the bad things anymore. Okay, so if you like really have super high anxiety from the shit, which is not uncommon, you stop taking it, a few days later, you're totally fine, which is with the injectable testosterone, it's gonna fucking take weeks, and that's awful. So if you catch shit early and you don't like what you see, a week after taking Anavar or something like that, you're probably not getting your natural testosterone production shut down in any meaningful sense. That doesn't take a couple days to come back. Nor do you have to put up with unwanted side effects for too long, which would be its own bad thing, right? Anxiety, depression, sexual dysfunction happens, anger, ultra high blood pressure, back pumps, acne, all this kind of shit happens from steroids within the first several weeks. And if you catch it early and cut it off, it can stop without you having to be like, oh shit, this shit is in my bloodstream for another 2-3 weeks. I'm just getting more of the same for a while.
So from a side effect management perspective, like I understand the idea of if you don't like it, you can pull it out of your system quick, but it's like to say you're gonna feel the effects in a few days, everything's gonna peak within a week. It's like, what have you built in a week? Like, what kind of accrual of tissue have you accomplished in 7 fucking days of this compound? That even for Anavar, like hitting steady state and getting like full saturation in your body, like in a week, it's like fully in your system, but are you really accomplishing anything? Have you really built anything up to where you can even make a logical, reasonable conclusion on if anabolics are for you or not? All you can really say is like, oh, do I feel like my testosterone is suppressed to a sufficient degree where I feel like shit, or I have any side effects that are notable whatsoever without even assessing blood work or anything, just anecdotally, what do I feel like? It's like, yeah, your suppression is gonna be essentially fucking like minimal. You're probably not gonna feel a lot different. You're not gonna feel hepatotoxicity. It's not a very hepatotoxic drug. It is in a dose-dependent manner, but it's more so processed by, interestingly enough, the kidneys as opposed to the liver. One of the more unique, oral anabolic agents in that regard. And yeah, you might get some like, psychoactive effects a little bit from like the neurological kind of, interactions with Anavar, because yeah, you can get some forced production outcomes acutely with oral androgens for sure. But again, like to try and make an assessment on like if anabolics are for you after a week, it's like, I don't really know how anybody could gauge that, Anavar was better than fucking test or wasn't as good or anything of that nature after a week. Like, is your SHBG going to be crashed into the ground where you would have otherwise had your anxiety creep up like so dramatically that you're like, okay, I'm like fucking done at 7 days in? Probably not. Like, this is a pretty 20 to 40 milligrams daily for 3 to 4 weeks. You're not really going to notice, I don't know, you will notice something for sure, but I mean like, what is the chance you're even getting real Anavar? Like that is another very, very, very like problematic thing to even consider. This is a compound that is heavily faked, probably arguably one of the most faked compounds in the entire industry. Are you going to be getting it prescribed by a, pharmaceutical, a company that has access to a pharmacy that's going to, get access to this for you? Like, of course not. You're a fucking, mid-20s guy who's trying to take gear for the first time. You're not a burn patient. You're not a catabolic HIV patient. Like, this is not something that is, clinically indicated for you as your, 25-year-old, guy who's trying to embark on AAS use for the first time. You're going to be getting it through an underground lab. And what is the probability that the underground lab you are using is going to have real Anavar? Like, pretty fucking low, dude. So again, we're just assuming that access is like, you're a guy who like barely understands how the shit works and you're getting into, low barrier to entry oral only cycles and you're going to get real fucking legit Anavar. What's the chance of that? I would say very low, to be honest. So again, like I see the points he's making and why I can acknowledge why they make sense. Like, let's go to the most notable study on Anavar administration that is relevant from a gonadotropin suppression aspect and kind of give a gauge of, what to expect versus testosterone, etc. This is actually one of the most relevant studies, and unfortunately, it's on HIV-associated weight loss in men. It's not like we have like graded dose response in healthy young men or something like in testosterone studies that we can use. But again, even those studies, they're using, GnRH agonists to shut guys down, and then it's like actually administering the testosterone, so you don't actually see like the, gonadotropin changes in real time. And a lot of these oxandrolone studies too, they're based on trying to assess like tolerability and safety as opposed to just like, the metrics we might want to see from like an endocrine aspect. But anyways, this is a really interesting one. It shows placebo versus 20 milligrams of Anavar versus 40 versus 80 for 12 weeks. So it's like, this is like a full-blown fucking Anavar cycle monotherapy that you would assess what is actually happening. And again, obviously these aren't, the healthiest of individuals at baseline, but we can at least see like the actual biomarker changes and make a, extrapolated assessment about like how potent is this stuff at, HDL suppression, hepatotoxicity markers, gonadotropin suppression, etc. And in here we see AST and ALT as far as hepatotoxicity markers, and we see placebo versus 20 milligrams versus 40 milligrams versus 80 milligrams at baseline and changes up to 3 months in essentially. And at baseline, we had in the placebo group 39.4, 20 milligrams 42.7, 37 40.1, and the placebo group had their ALT go down as well as their AST went down as well. However, as you would expect in a dose-dependent manner, as the dose escalates, you have these hepatotoxicity markers are escalating in unison with the dosage. So we have a jump from 3.6 and 4.4 up to 12.1 and 19.2 in the 40 milligram group, and then after up to the 80 milligram group, 20.3, 37.5 in the 80 milligram group. And based on the study for actual, protein synthesis, anabolic and anti-catabolic effects, before we get into the gonadotropins, it's probably most notable to show that from a lean body mass metric capacity, weight gain in kilograms, 40 milligrams actually ended up outperforming 80 milligrams. Now, again, this is something that could be, explained if we had more detail into, more subjects, more, study parameters with healthy young men that are actually going to be, relevant to the video that we're reacting to, etc. But ultimately, we can extrapolate out that, the conclusion of the study was at least like we have gain in what was this metric here again? This was body cell mass, apparently. I had to jump up and see what the acronym is for. And then we had the weight gain in kilograms, as mentioned here. And in general, the conclusion of the study was that the best ROI for gains relative to side effects, essentially, or offsetting of catabolism was 40 milligrams, the best bang for the buck relative to side effect profile. And there was, obviously significant changes relative to placebo in terms of preservation of tissue and, anabolic effects on top of that. But when we look at, the cholesterol levels, the HDL suppression, when we look at the liver toxicity metrics escalating in a dose-dependent manner, and then actually getting down to the gonadotropins, placebo versus 20 milligrams versus 40 versus 80. And again, you can't factor in these immunoassay results because they cross-detect. So these are essentially wiped out. And they mentioned this in the study as well, which is why they had a chromatography result down here. And here you can actually see how much suppression occurs, and you see almost no change in testosterone levels using placebo. When you go to 20 milligrams, all of a sudden testosterone levels are dropping by roughly half. Now again, some of the, issue with this study too, for, our reference point is that the baseline metric, these guys are almost all hypogonadal at baseline. They have a 289 baseline, a 269 baseline, 282, 314 in nanograms per deciliter. Like these aren't exactly representative of like top functioning young healthy men that would otherwise be the ones who would be qualified to even, tolerate anabolic androgenic steroids to begin with and make the most use of them, because in general, like you would want to be in the most prime position from a health perspective, tolerability of drugs perspective, muscle building perspective, a maxed out your natty potential perspective, everything before you even touch this shit for ergogenic enhancement. And again, so I can't really say for certain like, oh yeah, you're gonna have your test levels halved when you use this shit, but there is very blatant suppression, even as low as 20 milligrams. The 20 milligram dose was as suppressive as 40 based on this study at least. Now, when you look at the LH levels, it makes you think, well, are these guys essentially like candidates for TRT anyways? Are they hypogonadal at baseline? It's like on paper, their test levels are, but their LH and FSH levels are actually, in the reference range, and look, they actually, even after 12 weeks, did not reach like hypogonadal luteinizing hormone territory, and FSH did not either. So we had here, for example, the 40 milligram group only had a 1.35 drop in their LH levels, and their FSH dropped by 0.8. and they're still remaining in the reference range. So they did not get crushed into nothingness like you would on a, you know, high dose of injectables in general, even by week 12. So it's kind of interesting with these oral agents, with Anavar in particular. Now I've seen, you know, and again, SHBG level, something to note too before I forget, look how dramatic the suppression is of SHBG when it comes to Anavar usage. Very, very fucking potent at suppressing SHBG, which is a notable metric too that would kind of constitute really evaluating if oral only cycles are preferable or not. Because it's not just about like, you know, ease of administration versus injecting. Like there is a lot of downsides that come with oral administration patterns, first pass effect, etc., that you may be bypassing entirely with injectable agents, and actually getting the opportunity to like fuel your body with the actual hormone that it physiologically relies on from an endogenous hormone production perspective, which is testosterone. So you cannot achieve that outcome with oxandrolone administration. You're going to have a suppression significantly on SHBG, more so than you would get from testosterone. LH and FSH will go down. However, not as dramatically as you might think. A lot of people are going to assume you're going to be literally crushed to the ground and have test levels in the gutter, as well as subsequent to that, your estrogen levels in the gutter too, and then be operating in a state of like testosterone and estrogen deficiency the entirety of the cycle. May not be the case. However, to what extent, and is it still problematic? I would assert yes, it's still gonna be problematic suppression, perhaps not like crushing you like a fucking nandrolone would, but I mean, it's going to be pretty dramatic still, at least from what I've seen, enough so that it really makes you question, you know, is the extra hepatotoxicity, the extra cholesterol manipulation, the extra SHBG suppression, the fact that you're shutting down the endogenous hormone that you rely on for neuro and cardio protection at a physiologic level, the thing your body actually knows how to facilitate exact, you know, balanced amount of like androgenicity, estrogenicity, muscle building, etc. in the body. Like this is a synthetic agent at the end of the day. And while it is more tissue selective from an anabolic to androgenic perspective, you know, in Hirschberger assays, as well as in, you know, like clinical application in females, you know, androgen sensitive burn patients, etc. Like that's where it excels when you are trying to avoid viralizing outcomes essentially, and ease of administration, adherence to the actual taking of your medications. But I mean, from like an enhanced bodybuilder or like a guy trying to seek performance enhancement, if it's in sport, whatever it is, perspective, you know, I think it's pretty hard to argue against tests. Like while I would assert that the 500 tests or shut the fuck up cycle is not the way to go. Maybe titrating up to there at some point if you need it, you know, would make sense. But I mean, like off the bat, you know, most people, it does not make sense to go like that. I would consider like, you know, jumping into the fucking deep end with the sharks or the crocodiles or whatever my kids might say. But I mean, like comparatively to actual hormone that you rely on and know how to use exactly, testosterone, and having a like realistic entry point to that is going to be well tolerated, and we have graded dose response outcome studies on, and you can manipulate the pharmacokinetics based on administration frequency, ester choice, etc. All you got to deal with is an insulin pen versus, and probably be more educated about it going into it, versus the Anavar. You can be way more of an idiot and still use it. You probably don't even have Anavar to begin with. You have to deal with more skewing of biomarkers and suppression metrics concurrently, and just assume that you're going to feel okay. You know, he is asserting only doing a 3 to 4 week cycle too, which is like, I don't know, is that like at 4 weeks you end up continuing if you like what's going on and you just like hope that the testosterone suppression is not that significant and all the other metrics like look okay? You know, he's not wrong. I get what he's saying. And I do sort of identify to some extent with, you know, the idea that it is, like there are many pros and, you know, cons associated with it, but it kind of just depends on how educated you are going into it. If you kind of know what you're going to be doing long-term with this sort of stuff, which may be impossible to do going into it. But again, like overall, the whole like argument about like the pharmacokinetics of it, getting it in your system faster, blah, blah, blah. Like you're basically just saying you're going to be operating suppressed throughout your entire cycle, but it's not going to be that bad because it's not that suppressive for this short time frame that you're probably not actually accruing any significant amounts of muscle anyways, when you could just be using test. And it's just, I don't know, there's just a lot of things against it too that make me lean in the direction of the test only approach for most guys. But pending you're educated enough. Because yeah, this is gonna be more idiot proof, frankly. Like an Anavar only cycle, short duration, low, well-tolerated dose. Like it's gonna be a lot more idiot proof, and there's definitely an argument to be made that you might get away with it unscathed relatively. And like not even really notice you're on it because your suppression isn't like so dramatic, and you actually get an initial spike in free testosterone that you might not even feel suppressed at all. You might actually feel a boost off the bat when your SHBG starts getting crushed and a bunch of test is liberated from binding proteins.
Even if you do the entire 4 weeks of the cycle and you stop cold turkey, in most cases, within a few weeks later, full testosterone, serum testosterone is back, okay, or very close to full. Now, in some cases, if you read the research literature, some people take a long time. Some people never get their testosterone back normal. Those are very, very unlikely. So mostly it's fine. Most of the people who have ever dabbled with orals aren't like, whenever it came off, hasn't been the same. It's just not how it works. So you basically, in most cases, with something like Anavar, 20 to 40 mgs for a male for 3 to 4 weeks, when you come off, you just kind of feel normal after you come off. And there's not this like, oh man, 5 days after I'm like sleeping 12 hours a day, my dick won't get hard. It's just not a very common experience. Whereas if you come off cold turkey of like a 5 or 6 week cycle of testosterone, because it took you until week 3 or 4 to even feel much, and then you're like, oh fuck, I don't like this, you pull it out, you're going to be in for maybe a month or two of not feeling your best. Not a great trade-off, if you ask me. And you did. That's why you're watching this video. So what do you do after 3 or 4 weeks is over? Let's say you have a net positive experience. What do? You can't keep running orals because they're not so great for your liver. Also, running orals for forever, it's just not the greatest way, certainly health-wise. And
now keep in mind, the study I was showing was 12 weeks. So yeah, by week 3 to 4, like how much of these biomarker aberrations are even going to be present, it's going to be a lot more minimal impact on your system than at the 12-week mark probably. So yeah, it's a pretty fucking like relatively low risk. And when I say relatively low risk, it's relative to the other options approach. But you don't have a base of estrogen. You don't have the actual hormone your body knows exactly what to do with testosterone influxing into your system. You are slowly butt fucking yourself by eliminating the actual base hormone you rely on for so many different functions, and have all these metabolite androgens and estrogens that kind of do different things in the body that you rely on, not being accounted for. You're just like slowly degrading yourself essentially. But in the 3 to 4 week model, do you even get to that point where that even happens to any significant extent? Not very significantly. So like, I do see the argument he's making, and it's not entirely insane. Like the comment section, a lot of the stuff in there is about why this is, a very, very like poorly thought out thing. And you should be using a test base and this and that. I'm not gonna go through comment for comment, but I can understand why people would come to the conclusion they did too, because it's like, test is like, it's hard to argue against test only. And like, to be honest, even with the logic he's presenting, while I do understand the merits to it, I am still like in favor in general of a individual who would be educated enough to embark on this stuff to be deploying the hormone that you literally rely on for all functions, and is at least, shown to be relatively, safe and well tolerated, and your body is like has long-term data on it in humans at, HRT amounts and whatnot, graded dose response studies for like months at a time, and you don't have to deal with suppression or, skewing of liver markers, or a lot of this stuff is kind of just like, not a concern at that point. You don't have to worry about suppression because it's like, yeah, you're fucking suppressed. You're literally, injecting the hormone and manually manipulating it yourself. But again, there's merits to both sides of the equation, like I said. And what he's saying is not as insane as some people might assert.
Money-wise and overall anabolic throughput-wise, it's just not the best. So you don't continue to do that, but you can switch to injectables like testananthate or something like that. Maybe some primobolan in addition to that, depending on how you do things. Again, that's a broader Chavez, Joe Jeffrey question. And you either plan to come off in 16 to 20 weeks later, or you do indefinite ramp, blast, cruise, that sort of thing. If you have a negative experience, like you're like, fuck that, that was terrible, with the 3 to 4 week orals only cycle, you can try it again in 2 months, because all your shit's probably back to normal, with a different phase, like you try during cutting, maybe you try during massing, or you try during massing, you try during cutting, with a different compound, with a different training phase, like you tried it during a strength phase, but maybe you should try during a hypertrophy phase, or just a different dose of the same compound. Like you tried 40 milligrams of VAR and you got like really great pumps, but not so great anxiety. And maybe you try it again a few months later with 20 milligrams and the pumps are almost as good, but the anxiety is like 0. Then you're winning. And then after that,
definitely don't gauge your anabolic response on pumps is what I would recommend too. Because like, let's do a depot only cycle, at a dose that makes no sense, accrue a bunch of fucking, you know, side effects and just assume it's the best thing because I've gained 10 pounds of water and my pumps are stupid. Not necessarily the best indicator at the end of the day. I'm sure he's not asserting that, but like, you know, there's some metric of assessment of feeling it in the gym that he's going by, presumably, to actually, you know, give a guidance on, you know, is it working, is it not working? Because again, you're not gonna be accruing much of shit in, you know, 7 days, obviously.
You may be able to go back up in the slide and get 16 to 20 weeks and get into the real shit, the injectable. Or you could just not hit the shit for years and years and maybe come back to it later. Or you could just not do it ever. Because frankly, for your overall quality of life, steroids are overrated as fuck. And take it from me, I have a clone in another universe that's using them. Folks, like, subscribe, comment, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, so anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like personally, if I was to go back in time and I was to assess, you know, my response to something, I still would have used test only. I just would have used a lower entry level dose that was had a lesser likelihood of resulting in the need to deploy an aromatase inhibitor or manage side effects from a 5-alpha reduction aspect, aromatization aspect, overall accrual of, you know, anxiety, like all of these things that occur potentially with pushing your free test levels into super physiological territory, you know, may be mitigated by starting at a lower entry level amount. And again, like not shutting yourself down for no fucking reason, but using an amount shown in the literature to be very performance enhancing and then titrating up accordingly based on your needs. Maybe you explode off of, you know, you're a hyper responder to just a few hundred milligrams versus another guy takes 500 and looks like fucking shit still. You know, it all depends. It's all individual at the end of the day. And with a oral only Anavar cycle, I mean, like I don't really know how you're going to gauge your response to test necessarily off of the 3 to 4 weeks of Anavar. Like what you can conclude is, yeah, maybe it might be like, you know, the gateway drug essentially. And it's like you decide based on your response to it. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I feel like I adequately elucidated the pros and cons to both and kind of gave my stance on his points. But steroids are overrated as fuck. Yeah, how many people are using them that, you know, maybe shouldn't be or whatever? Like at the end of the day, you need to be thoroughly educated before you use this stuff. And I think, unfortunately, most aren't, myself included. I should have been far more well-researched before I started using this stuff. And a lot of the reason why I don't blast this shit now is because of the information I've learned over the years. And I wish I knew from the beginning. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. Much appreciated. Like, subscribe. Check out Renaissance Periodization for very good training tips and programming information and whatnot. And check out anything that supports me. Video description below. Preventative medicine, hormone replacement therapy platform. Get high quality doctor oversight. If you're going to be doing shit like this, you absolutely need a baseline hormone panel and just comprehensive blood work in general, in my opinion. To assess, you know, where you're at. You do not want to be deploying hormones, anabolic steroids, and then end up with an issue and then try and figure it out after and work backwards from no baseline blood work state. Like that would be the, you know, a mistake many people make. And I'm sure everyone that took gear wishes they had their original natty baseline blood work to refer to, especially if they encounter issues in the future. So not only having a high quality, non-judgmental medical professional on your side who oversees your care and is not going to shit on you if you use stuff, but in general, getting high quality self-service labs, even if you're not gonna have a doctor assess your hormonal state, your you know, balance of biomarkers, ratios, etc., still worthwhile to get your baseline panel done regardless, even if it's just for your own reference point. So you can check it out, link in description below, as well as anything else I'm associated with, recommended diet model for sports performance and general health, vitality, optimization, muscle building, micronutrient intake. It's all factored in. It's something that goes heavily overlooked by most cookie cutter influencer diets sold on Instagram and shit. So you can check it out, and anything else I'm associated with, it's all down there. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.